Forget the romantic shipwreck myths. The reality of the Sable Island horses is a lot harsher and a lot more real. These were working horses dumped on a sandbar in the middle of the ocean 250 years ago and left behind. No barns, no shelter, not a single blade of green grass. Today we're breaking down exactly how a domesticated herd figured out how to find food and water to survive for centuries in one of the most unforgiving places on Earth. Part 1. The Shipwreck Lie. Sitting out in the middle of the fog-bound Atlantic is a narrow strip of sand called Sable Island, better known by a much grimmer name, the Graveyard of the Atlantic. Over 350 ships have gone down here. There's this romantic myth that the wild horses roaming the island today are the tough survivors that swam ashore from those wrecks. Horse people love that story. But the reality hits a lot harder. The truth? The sable horses didn't swim in from the sea. Around 1738, a Boston merchant named Thomas Hancock deliberately shipped them out there to help set up farming and life-saving stations. When people finally threw in the towel against the island's brutal conditions, they packed up and left, abandoning those New England working horses. There was no heroic escape from a sinking ship, just the cold, hard fact of a domesticated herd dumped in the middle of the ocean, forced to tap right back into their most primitive survival instincts. For 250 years, not a single human hand has touched them. No vaccines, no hoof care, no barns. They are the ultimate proof of what it takes to survive when you're pushed right to the absolute edge. Part 2. The Brutal Toll. Survival on a sandbar in the middle of the ocean is a brutal reality. Forget about lush green pastures. Sable Island doesn't have them. The main source of food is marram grass. It's tough, wiry, and has almost zero nutritional value. To stay alive, these horses have to scavenge seaweed washed up on the beach just to get some essential minerals. The most brutal part of this diet shows up in their teeth. Because they're grazing right against the ground, they're swallowing a mouthful of sand with every bite. That sand acts like natural sandpaper, grinding their teeth down with every single chew and destroying the dental structure at a terrifying speed. A well-cared-for domestic horse can hit 30, but on this island, making it to 15 is a miracle. Once the teeth are worn flat and they can't grind down that tough grass anymore, it's the end of the line. These older horses don't die from predators. They waste away from starvation and malnutrition in the middle of a frozen winter. This isn't some tragedy for us to romanticize. It's just cold-blooded natural selection. Weeding out the old and weak ensures that the limited food goes to the healthiest ones. That's the only reason this herd has managed to stay resilient for centuries. Part 3. Dig or Die. Think about it. A sandbar in the middle of the ocean with zero permanent rivers, streams, or freshwater lakes. So how does a herd of horses get their daily water? Forget the myth about them drinking seawater. The sable horses figured out a unique survival trick built around the natural phenomenon called a freshwater lens. When the rain hits, fresh water seeps through the porous sand and floats right on top of the heavier, denser salt water underground. Honed by generations of pure instinct, these horses learn to use their front hooves to dig down into the dunes. They patiently scrape out shallow pits just deep enough to tap into that fragile, freshwater reserve and stay alive. But it's not just about finding water. Their actual body morphology has completely shifted after 250 years of absolute isolation. Their frames shrank down to optimize energy use. Their manes and tails grew incredibly thick, hanging low right over their faces. It works as a perfect natural shield, protecting their eyes and respiratory systems from the brutal, sand-blasting ocean winds. And look at their hooves. It's pure adaptation. Without a farrier in sight for over 2 centuries, sable hooves naturally reshape themselves to be wider and flatter. This biomechanical shift spreads out their body weight, letting them move solid and steady without sinking into the dangerous quicksand scattered all over the island. Part 4. Strictly hands-off. Sable Island offers a rare, unfiltered look at natural herd dynamics. Out on this isolated sandbar, there are zero predators. No wolves, no big cats. The pressure to survive doesn't come from outrunning teeth and claws. It comes straight from the brutal weather and the constant lack of food. To optimize their chances, they keep their bands tight. A family group is just 2 to 9 horses, run by a highly disciplined lead stallion, which cuts internal competition for food down to an absolute minimum. Today, Sable Island is protected as a Canadian national park, but the real kicker is the government's management policy, strictly hands-off. That means zero medical support for the herd, no vaccines, no dewormers, and absolutely no hay drops in the dead of winter. If a horse gets sick or snaps a leg, humans are only allowed to watch. Nature calls the shots. For horsemen used to providing top-tier care, standing by while an animal goes down is a tough pill to swallow. But from an ecological standpoint, it's the only way to protect the raw, primitive strength of the population. Patching up a weak link just means passing those compromised genetics down the line. By stripping away human pity, the ruthless laws of nature have single-handedly forged generations of iron-tough horses. Part 5. No pity, just survival. The Sable Island horses aren't some romantic ocean fairy tale spun by the mainstream media. Their existence is a raw, unapologetic case study in the absolute limits of equine biology. Every scar on their salt-matted coats, every tooth ground down from chewing sand, every gaunt frame surviving a brutal late winter blizzard. None of that is a sign of decay. Those are badges of ultimate survival. Originally nothing more than discarded working horses, they didn't just fold when handed a hopeless survival scenario. Instead, they tapped into their deepest, most primitive instincts. They leaned right into the sheer cruelty of nature, turning a deadly Atlantic sandbar into their own kingdom. The fact that they've held their ground for over 2 centuries forces every breeder, vet, and horseman to completely rewrite the book on core equine resilience. Long after the massive steel shipwrecks rot away and get swallowed entirely by the sand, the feral sable herd will still be galloping through the fog. They stand as a hard, undeniable reminder to all of us. The toughest life out there doesn't need our intervention, and it sure doesn't need our pity. When pushed to the absolute brink, nature always knows exactly how to forge its own way to the top and win. The Sable Herd is a masterclass in equine resilience, surviving where most would fail. If you value this deep dive into their raw reality, consider supporting our independent research with a super thanks. You can also explore the curated reading list in the description to go even deeper into their story. Thanks for being part of the journey.